All right, guys. So here we are. These practice problems come from page 102 in our physical science book, and these all deal with kinetic energy, right? And one we solve for kinetic energy, two we solve for mass, and the third we solve for the speed, which is the velocity. Okay. We're gonna do 1 and 3 together, then we'll flip over and look at some others. All right. So when you do these problems, all right, read it first. What is the kinetic energy of a baseball moving at a speed of 40 meters per second as a mass of 0.15 kilograms? Okay. We know we're dealing with kinetic energy, so we'll write the kinetic energy equation down. And then write a data table. Okay, so what's a data table? Well, we just write down the givens and what we don't know, right? We only have three things: kinetic energy, mass, and velocity. My velocity is 40 meters per second, speed, right? My mass, baseball, 0.15 kilograms. My kinetic energy, what we're trying to solve for, so I'm just going to put a question mark there. All right, now we just take this information and we plug it straight into this equation. Because we're solving for kinetic energy, which is already isolated, right? It's by itself over here. So Ke equals 1/2 times my mass. Just plug it in, 0.15 kilograms. All right, now the parentheses just mean that you're multiplying these things together, right? And velocity is 40 meters per second squared. Okay, now when you do the math on your calculator, don't square anything except for the 40, right? The units are also squared, but the units don't get dealt with on your calculator, okay? So 40 squared is going to be 4 squared is 16, 10 squared is 100, so it's 1,600. Okay, divide by 2 is about 800, and then times 0.15. Well, we'll just do it all right here, okay? 0.5 is 1/2, okay, times 0.15, which is that, times 40, and I got to square that. Okay, I don't know if you can see that very well. Right there. Enter. It equals 120. So Ke equals 120. Now remember, we have to pick the right set of units. Energy is always in joules. But it's actually, in this case, it's a kilogram, right, times a meter squared over second squared, which is also a joule, okay? So you can write this, or you can write J. All right, let's go down here and do number 3. You guys can figure number 2 out. 3 is a little harder because we got to solve in this case for speed, right? What do we know? We're going to write our data table. Ke, that's a K, equals 4,000 joules. All right. My mass equals 80 kilograms. And my velocity equals question mark. All right, now I showed you guys how to rearrange these equations to solve for different things. All right, if you're going to solve for velocity, we'll put it over here first. All right, so V equals 2 times Ke over m. You take the square root of that. Okay, so V squared equals kinetic energy times 2. All right, to move the 2 over there. And we divide by mass, put that over there. All right, now just flip it around. So V equals square root of 2 Ke over m. So let's write that. Now we just plug our values into this equation. So square root of 2, right, times 4,000 joules over 80 kilograms. All right, and our V is going to have units of, well, let's see. Up here we've got the joule is a kilogram meter squared per second squared. All right, so we take that and we divide by a kilogram. The kilograms will cancel. And then meter squared per second squared gets left over. You take the square root of a meter squared, you get a meter. Take the square root of a second squared, you get a second. So in our answer, we're going to end up with meters per second for our units. Okay? Now let's do the math. Start with what's underneath the square root sign. So we do 2 times 4,000. Divide by 80. Make sure you hit equals, and then we take the square root of that. We end up with 100. The square root of 100 is going to be 10. So it's only 10 meters per second. All right, that's pretty good. Okay, so if he ran 100 meters, he could do it in 10 seconds, right? Okay, so that's that side. Let's change this out. Let's flip it over. Look at the problems on the back. Oh, my back is blank. Let me find that. Okay, we're back. Here's the other side of the paper, right? Practice problems, page 104 of your physical science book. So in chapter 4, if you go to page 104, you'll find these 3 problems. written in a little box. I just typed them out for you and made space so you could show your work on this piece of paper. Okay, find the height of a baseball with a mass of 0.15 kilograms that has a gravitational potential energy of 73.5 joules. Now, I can tell you on page 104, all these problems are gravitational potential energy. Our equation is GPE equals mgh. All right, so I could go ahead and write that really for all three of these. All right, now let's write down our data table. Okay, what do we know? Well, we have to write down GPE equals something, write down mass equals something, we need to write down gravity equals something, we need to write down height equals something. Okay, now GPE is given to us, 73.5 joules. Okay, mass is 0.15 kilograms. Gravity is always the same on Earth, and that's where we're dealing with these problems. So gravity is going to be 9.8, and it's meters over second squared. Okay, remember gravity is an acceleration. Okay, 9.8 meters per second squared. That's an acceleration. So don't square the 9.8. Right, the seconds are squared. And then the height is a question mark. We don't know that. Okay, for these problems, just go ahead and always write down a data table. It doesn't take very long, and it makes your math simpler, and it usually ensures that you get the right answer. All right, so just do it because I told you to. Okay, so let's got to rearrange this equation to solve for h. Well, if we take m and g and divide them over here, right, divide both sides by mg, we get GPE over mg equals h. I'm just going to flip that around, so h equals GPE over mg. All right. Now we just got to plug these values into this equation, do the math, and we get the answer. So h equals 73.5 joules. I'm getting out of room here. Over my mass is 0.15 kilograms. My gravity is 9.8 meters per second squared. Okay, now let's look at what a joule is. A joule is a kilogram meter squared per second squared. All right. A joule is a kilogram meter squared per second squared. So if we take that, kilogram meter squared per second squared, we divide by kilograms, kilograms cancel. Then we divide by meter per second squared, the second squared cancel, and one of the meters gets canceled. So your height that you're going to end up with is going to be in meters. All right. So let's do the math. Now both of these are on the bottom of this line. It means you're going to take 73.5, divide by that, and divide by that. Okay, so let's do that. 73.5 divided by 0.15 divided by 9.8 equals 50. So it's exactly 50 meters. All right. So we did 3 problems. You guys can do the other 3. Right? On this one, you're finding the GPE, so all you have to do is write down your data table. Right, numbers and units, plug your numbers and units into your equation, and solve, and then do the calculator. Okay. Down here, you're going to rearrange this for mass. You're going to get mass equals GPE over GH. And again, write down your data table, plug your information into the problem, and solve it on the calculator. All right. So I do want you to always make a data table, right? This is just what's given in the problem statement and what's not given, what you're trying to find. Okay. Write down your equation. If you have to rearrange the equation, do so. Okay, show what your equation is as it's rearranged. And then plug the numbers and units into your equation or your rearranged equation. Then solve it on your calculator, get the number, right? Write down the number in the unit. Okay, so h equals blah. All right, just like over here, we did the same things, right? We solved for kinetic energy. Kinetic energy equals 120 kilograms meters squared per second squared, or joules. Okay, down here we solve for velocity. This is a little tricky because you got to rearrange and end up with square root. I know that's probably a little different. Okay, but v equals the square root of 2 times ke over m. So we plug in our values. 2 times 4,000 joules, their kinetic energy, divided by 80 kilograms. 2 times 4,000 divided by 80 is 100. Square root of 100 is 10. And the units we talked through earlier cancel out, and you end up with meters per second. Okay? All right. Good luck, guys.